of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, 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 not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
And everyone's like, I forgive you for whatever I was mad about.
Racism is so funny in like the ways that we kind of understand it to play out, you know, within power structures, and like, oh, it is a white person can be racist but a black person cannot, etc. If we look at it through that lens, by the way, we're recording, something that's really funny that's happened to me over the last few years is that I have a good friend who's Korean, but also he's like
Congrats, dude.
North or south?
South.
Hold on.
Yeah, Kim Jong Un's a good friend of mine. I dyed my hair rainbow colored and went over and played basketball in his country, and now we're tight and shit hang out all the time. No, man, I have a friend who's South Korean, and he's also like, he loves to get offended at shit. Like he's like looking for it a lot of times.
Koreans, you know they are.
But
Made that up. A made-up stereotype, but I want him to hear and get offended.
They're really into not getting nuked.
but he's come out to see me do stand up, like, you know, like once a year, like a friend, you know.
Wow.
Like a normal friend comes out and sees you once a year or whatever.
I don't know who these normal friends you have.
But every single time over the last 5 years, like 5 for 5 every year, the weirdest thing has happened every single time, which is that a black guy doing comedy has done an extremely racist Asian accent. And it's always a black dude doing an extremely racist Asian accent. And the math on it is so funny to me because, like, he's the only person in the room that's like, what the fuck is going on here? Everyone else is like, black people can't be racist. Like, there's all this weird math to it. And I think it's just like, I don't know what to do with it every time it happens.
I mean,
Jake's long-distance boyfriend is here to see him.
Everyone can be offensive and bigoted and prejudiced and all that.
Yeah.
That's why one of my favorite songs is Black Korea by NWA, because it's a very bigoted and or racist, depending on how you frame it, song towards Korean people from NWA, and I get to listen to it and be like, I don't know what to do here.
Why?
What am I?
What's your
favorite song?
Because
I think if you're deciding whether it's
about the
racist
contradiction.
or bigoted, it's like you're not, you know, either way, it's not going to be a great outcome.
Your
I'm gonna go out
favorite
on a-
song is something you listen
Yes.
to and just bite your nails. alone.
Because it creates conflict
You're
within
like,
the
I
soul.
really like Triumph of the Will because either Lenny
Well, no, if Triumph of the Will was
They're
from
so strong,
Yeah.
but so wrong.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
bite my nails when I'm reading it and go, what is happening in my head right now?
Yeah.
Anyways, hey
you're
guys, this is
sweet,
Pod
so
Damn
I'm
America
sorry.
for the week. I'm Jake Flores. I have with me Anders Lee,
Anders Lee here.
Alex Patak,
Alex Patak here.
and special guest Katie Halper from the Katie Halper Show.
Halper here.
Yes, yeah. Finally, someone takes on
It's
Anders.
Anders' birthday tomorrow.
His reign of terror over being the only person that's allowed to say that. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to talk to you about basically a lot of the electoral races that are happening in New York right now, but also the concept of electoral politics altogether. I listened to your the episode of your show today where you interviewed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I quite enjoyed it.
The nominee.
For anyone listening unfamiliar, that was funny. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is important right now because she is basically a shoo-in for a congressional seat, which will make her the first, I think, open socialist in Congress. Also,
Well, there's Bernie before.
he's a senator.
Well, but he was a congressman.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Female.
She's the youngest female, I believe.
She'll
Yeah.
be the only maybe female socialist, maybe only Puerto Rican, Latin. Let's just say
Latinx.
socialist of color. Let's
Right.
just say
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think the only open No one else is. Everyone else is closeted, right?
I think
With
Paul
socialist
Ryan has
tendencies?
kind of
Paul Ryan
made
is
some
a,
hints, but
He's a Randian socialist.
Yeah.
Randy.
He's a closeted person of color.
Yeah, he is.
Hiding.
He's like
He
Peter
really is.
Dow. He's slowly becoming
really? Okay,
more
yeah.
openly socialist
Got it.
as time goes on.
And more openly of color.
Yeah.
You know, Peter Dow literally asked Twitter about how he should identify because he doesn't identify as white, and he wanted advice to see if he came across as a white guy.
Well, he's a bloodless gray, which can be
He
a
is
spectrum
actually.
of ethnicity.
He's you know what he is? He's Lebanese, and he was in the that militia, that famous for the Shatila. What is it?
The posting wars?
Famous for the killing Palestinian refugees. The
Oh.
Falange. He was in the Falange, Christian art.
okay.
That's one of the
Christian
bad
militia.
ones.
Oh yeah, he was in a
Yeah.
bad one.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
I had no
he
idea.
says that he was in it. He was conscripted, and far be it from me to judge someone. I seriously don't judge a kid for being I don't
Lebanese.
judge the well. No,
He said he
that's
was doing it
unforgivable.
ironically.
But
a Nick Mullen.
Ratzinger, the Pope, Nazi Pope, I don't blame him for being in Hitler Youth at 14. I can't say I would have risked my life to get out of it.
Yeah.
I would have
Sure,
had
sure.
to make the
the
choice.
shit I would have done
obviously,
at 14 for Tenacious D,
Oh,
Yeah.
let alone.
Tenacious A.
Yeah.
H.
That's why it's so important Tenacious D does not bring back conscription.
Hitler's nickname is Tenacious H. The kids loved him. Anyways, oh my God, Peter Dow
Yeah, right. So
has been very funny online post Ocasio because he's now pulling a weird 180 take where he's
He's Chairman Dow.
he's now into it. The fucking hilarious thing about this huge, people will call it an upset, but it's a pretty obvious win for this socialist candidate ousting this shitty incumbent who never ran in the first place is just the plethora of bad takes.
bad takes.
right?
Oh my God.
I was so stoked last night. I'm still kind of hungover. I went out and I was excited and fucking did shots and stuff. But the cold light of morning brought the bad takes
Right.
and the weird criticisms that are going
So-
to now be lobbed at her.
So Ocasio, can I give a little bit
Please do.
background on
Yeah.
her? So she was, she's from the Bronx, and both of her parents were from Puerto Rico, and she was a bartender
she was a bartender,
a year
baby.
ago.
Few
She
months
went
ago,
to
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
she I think she went to college at somewhere in Boston. I can't remember. She studied international relations. She worked in book publishing. She did organizing, all this stuff, teaching. She did a lot of different things. And then Brand New Congress recruited her. Her brother nominated her. And Brand New Congress recruited her to run. And Brand New Congress and Justice Democrats are these organizations that help people who basically would otherwise not have the funding or the connections run for office. And so they've helped a lot of great people. Paula Jean Swearingen, who didn't win, but she came so close to defeating Jim Manchin, which would have been huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she's great, and she was running against basically the personification of Tammany Hall, this old white Irish American dude who
was
was
representing the
appointed-
Bronx.
yeah, the
Old
Bronx.
white Irish guy.
I mean, there is that part of the Bronx, but
That's
still,
my
and
grandparents
my,
are
yeah,
that
my mom,
work.
I'm half, as I said on the episode, I'm a product of a mixed marriage, half Bronxian, half Queensian. My mom is Bronxian, my dad's Queensian, and my mom fled the Bronx Irish Catholic pogroms.
Bit of New
get,
York humor for you
Yes.
on the show.
I get my sushi at Ellis Island. No, Rikers Island.
Rikers
Shit.
Island.
I was trying to make a Dan Ninen joke. It didn't work. We'll cut it out.
But she's she's great, and of course none of the Emily's List did not endorse her. Gillibrand endorsed Crowley. Crowley also accused her of making the race about race. That's kind of meta. While he of course says that he's proud to be Irish American. It's funny. Gabe Pacheco, my co-host on my podcast, made this point because I guess Crowley said something about how now is not a time to be divisive. It's time to come together to defeat Trump.
They always
Gabe's
say that shit.
The primary is literally when you're supposed to be running against each other to
yeah.
find
It's a time cordoned off to be
Yeah,
divisive,
exactly.
so you can say that
Yeah,
the rest of
exactly.
the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was there. I wasn't there when she won, but I was there at the victory party last night. I missed the thingy, but the great thing is the actual win. But the great thing is that Zephyr Teachout was there. Cynthia Nixon was there. And so Julia Salazar was there. So these are other women who we hope will also be victorious. And just want to say that both Ocasio and Ben Jealous, they both won. They both did my show, and that's what we call it's statistical proof of the Katie Halper show bump.
Katie Halper show.
Krasner did your show as well, right?
Larry, thank you. I
You
didn't
had
want to brag. I got
Krasner?
Larry Krasner
Yeah,
on.
back before he was when
Yeah.
he was just.
When
Oh
he
my
was just
God.
running, he wasn't even.
I have
He
a-
is a silver-haired fox. Let me
I
tell
fucking
you.
love that guy.
Okay.
He's very handsome.
Got a big poster of him above my bed.
Really?
Where he's
On
laid
the
out
ceiling?
like a teen hunk.
Nice. He is a hunk. He looks okay in photos. He kind of looks like a less tubby Barney Frank, but he's actually very
Oh
handsome.
yeah,
He's very
and he
handsome
doesn't have,
though.
and his voice is a lot smoother than Mr.
wait,
Frank. Yeah.
Someone's-
Matt, you're like a trying to talk. You're like
dining room
Oh, yeah, I
table.
can't
Yeah.
remember the dining room table. He has a lower voice. I can't remember.
Something that's funny about getting old is that, like, when you're young, the coolest person ever is, like, Slash. And then when you're, like,
Or Ralph
30, you're like, it's Ralph Nader. Or Larry Krasner.
Larry Krasner's really
Some
cute.
weird, disheveled guy in a tie.
He's pretty.
This guy's
yeah.
a badass, man.
Yeah.
He's going to
Well,
fix everything.
I have a couple predictions about because now people are still kind of making sense of her win last night, and we have the Joyanne Reeds of the world who are all of a sudden big DSA fans.
That's the funniest shit.
Yeah,
Well,
but
what-
I think it's only a matter of time before there's people who are like seeing that that men of our ilk are fans of Ocasio and are going to be like, oh, so I guess Hillary Clinton didn't meet your beauty standards.
Right.
Let me tell you a
huh?
story. That already,
What are you in there for a smooch?
Yeah.
Right.
Trying to go on a date?
Not all of us are Anders, okay?
That already happened to me though. So I
You
I
should
got,
just be like, no, I'm hot for Hillary. You're wrong. I just didn't like her
I would
politics.
seriously.
I didn't
would,
vote for Hillary because I find her so sexually
She
attractive.
is the
You had
most
to
experienced
you had to
MILF.
You had to Gilf, actually. You had to recuse yourself.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
voting.
I thought it would clouded my
Judgment.
my judgment of her. But this has already happened to me with Ocasio, who
Really?
I fucking last night I was excited and I posted. I
Aroused.
particularly like because she's a bartender just felt
Right.
so much personal solidarity with her because I work as a bartender and was like, wow, this is. How often do you see someone that does your exact job do the thing you're talking about, right? So I put a picture of her online and I sort of explained it, and I just kind of made a statement about how, like, this incrementalist shit is done. Like, you guys should sort of people should evolve or fucking fall behind in the tar
Right.
pit, basically.
Surrender your lands. The revolution is here.
And the one person that got really mad at me online was this woman who I met 2 years ago during the Hillary Bernie primary, and we have no friends on Facebook together. We're like we're just two isolated people that
Oh,
know
you're
each
not.
other.
And you're not. Are you friends?
We're
with
friends.
Facebook
but
friends. Okay.
We don't have any mutual
Got it,
friends.
yeah.
We're like two completely
Right.
separate, just
Yeah,
fucking ships
unrelated,
passing in the
yeah.
night.
You're
right?
just both in the polling place.
The reason
who you voting for?
The reason I know her is because during 2016 I had a tweet that went viral that was very stupid, and it was about how it's the last season of America, yada yada
Oh, yeah.
yada. The Daily Show stole it. Now it's very but 2 years ago that was a novel thought.
Right.
Now it's the hell we're living in, right? But
Thanks.
I was
Thanks, Jake.
yeah, I
Making it
caused
happen.
it to happen. But I met her at a party, and she came up to me and she told me, "Hey, that tweet got passed around in the Hillary campaigns, their email chain that gets sent around, right?" And she went, "Hey, I just want to let you know, we all were laughing at this morning." And I went, "Oh, cool, good to meet you." And then throughout the Hillary Bernie primary, we would see each other at parties and kind of have this weird meet where we'd
Right.
go what's going on your end of things?
Right.
What's going on in
so
your
she
end
knew
of
you
things?
were
right?
Bernie. Got
Yeah,
it.
she called me a Bernie bro playfully back then. I called her a Nazi,
Yeah.
we joked around.
Not playfully.
And so we just kind of had this thing going on, and I have not talked to her since then. But when I posted this congratulatory thing about Ocasio last night, she came out and she came up on my Facebook, and she was like, "This is sexist. You're a brocialist. Yada yada yada."
Oh my God! Can I see a screenshot so I can comment on it?
Yeah.
I won't get. I get accused of dragging people because
That's also kind of why I wanted to have you on my show,
Yeah.
because like we both just get this shit from fucking all angles.
So she
Wait.
She was saying that what you were
She was saying me like celebrating Ocasio's win.
What Jake hasn't told us is that he cropped her head onto a naked body, so it was a little inappropriate.
of Hillary Clinton.
Just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there was no. Yeah.
If you did that, that would be rude.
No, but you know what's true? This is not probably the answer response you expected, but like there are some women like Hillary people, women's magazine types, who like would not have responded to Ocasio if she, I mean, I don't. It's hard to say this without sounding like I'm. Clearly, I love the woman. I would love her no matter what she looks like. She happens to be very beautiful. That, I mean, informs my support of her.
Yeah.
Not at all. But I know, and it's like you can't prove this, but they're definitely. It's not the leftists who like her because of that. They're definitely libs who find her more like tolerable because she's so aesthetically pleasing, and they really, I think, honestly,
they
like
wouldn't have voted for Abuela.
well. They wouldn't. I mean, I think that there was a lot of weird, like, I don't want to go down this road that I go down every day of my life on the hour, but like
Don't
why
go down
people
there.
hate Bernie so much. And like, I think people there's some anti-Semitism there, and I hardly ever think anything's anti-Semitism. And in fact, it's my like non-Jewish friends who have to convince me that something's anti-Semitic, so I know the theory has cred.
Tenacious H, that was it.
Tenacious H. But like, it is. It's funny because I feel almost the opposite, and it's different. It has nothing to do with our side of the politics. Like, it's totally on brand for us to like this woman. She's a lefty. She's a socialist. We've always liked socialists. We've always liked socialists of color. We've always thought that like socialism is better for people of color, despite the narrative of it being some white nationalist ideology, which is total bullshit. But it's funny because the thing that she's kind of saying about you, which is inconsistent because there's no incoherence between you liking her and the rest of your politics, is what I think about some kind of annoying like white Hillary women who find her like appealing and like her story and think she's so pretty and cute.
Yeah, certainly.
I really liked. She did an interview with Glenn Greenwald where they were talking about identity politics as it informs a candidate and whether you should factor that in when you're voting for a candidate. And the conclusion, and I tend to agree with this, is like, there's nothing wrong with factoring in, if somebody is a woman or a person of color, like that's okay to put that as like a plus in their line.
Well, it certainly is a factor because the other option there is.
But it's not the only reason.
Right.
It should never be the only reason. And it's also it's one thing if they're like if they're from a marginalized identity or whatever. But if their appearance and how quote unquote sexy they are not
Well, that's just
doesn't matter.
branding.
Yeah,
That's like what politics is from the get-go. Is you get somebody who looks good on a T-shirt and then you print those T-shirts.
I mean, it's more. But I guess what I'm saying is that there are people who. But it's funny, it's like I actually find this internalized misogyny or internalized sexism that I'm always accused of. I feel like I'm seeing it kind of
it seems
a
like
lot in this because there's like a weird, like a fetishizing of her.
Yeah.
And like she's so pretty and she's not in your face, obviously, or like a Jewish grandpa the way Sanders does. And then that makes me really mad at them for being like, what is wrong with you that you are, first of all, you're pretending they have different ideologies, and they don't really. Like, except she's better on ice
She
than
worked
he is.
for him,
But like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like, it is really so optics-based, but in like not about straight white men. It's the opposite. Now I sound like I'm someone who feels bad for straight white men.
No,
which I don't,
well, but this is something I'm actually concerned about. Is like I can kind of see this happening where she will become hated, like a hated figure by the alt-right 4chan dudes in a way that Bernie wasn't.
Right.
Because, for a lot of reasons. But she's going to become a meme. They could try to dox her and target her. That's something that's actually kind of
Well,
scary.
she has a good start with the right, though, because immediately President Trump tweeted.
Yeah, he got real mad.
Oh, yes.
Oh, what happened? I didn't see this.
He essentially rubbed in Crowley's face that he got primaried I think because he thinks a Republican somehow beat him?
No,
Yeah.
it was because, and this was actually the only reason I supported her is because of Crowley was not respectful enough to the
Can we get the
president.
tweet? You can't ever just... You
Yeah,
can't imitate the king, you know? It's like art. It has to be dictated.
I like how I started searching President Trump. As if that's his... Donald
It's
J.
President
Trump.
Trump, sir.
I have it up on my Facebook.
Oh,
here.
wow. Big Trump hater Congressman Joe Crowley just lost his primary election. In other words, he's out.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
That is a big
Sad when
one.
you laugh. Doesn't Trump make you laugh a lot?
Dude, he's
Yes.
so funny.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, like, everyone talks about how he killed comedy. He killed comedy because he became comedy.
Yeah, he did it.
Yes.
He did an hour every day for a year and a half. Just off
Yeah.
the top
I
of
think
his
Bush
head.
did that too a little bit. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't really make jokes after Bush in a different way, but you couldn't because it was like poetry.
Well, that's why the second comedy boom happened under Obama. Because
Right.
Obama was so not someone you wanted to make fun of.
I know.
You had
Yeah,
to,
you
like,
had to think
turn
about other
the
shit.
lens on life, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
But-
like your dad, and you can be rebellious when dad's home.
Yeah.
But then when your stepdad's there, the joke's over.
Right.
But I mean, Trump. I mean, like, I read that, and it was just honestly so funny, like so fucking
I
hilarious.
mean, when he made fun of John McCain, I know it was terrible, but it cracked me up
God.
because
It's
it's
really
just
so
so.
funny.
It was so. It was like such a dick thing to say, but I feel like also. I think Trump's a monster. Like you guys know that.
Right, yeah.
Some libs pretend like I don't.
No
because-
qualifications
Yeah,
are
no
necessary on
qualifications,
this
right?
shit.
Like we actually spend time talking about the people who we want, who are supposed to be beating him, right?
Yeah.
Like because those are the people who need to be better. Anyway, but like, there's something. I hate him. And even I, as someone who hates him, like when he said that about John McCain, there's something cathartic about hearing someone say something that everyone kind of thinks. Everyone's kind of thought, like, John McCain's a hero, but he got captured. Maybe that makes me, I'm revealing that I'm a terrible person. But there's like a
his
rebel.
whole thing
No.
is he got captured, and we're supposed
Yeah.
to be excited about it. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what he resisted to, and it's just more like the rebellious thing. Even if you don't really think it, it has to flash through your head, right? It's like
Yeah.
the
Well,
id or
Trump was
whatever.
appealing to people as a radical on the right,
Right.
and the radical part of that is
Right.
what's appealing.
disrupting the status
Donald
quo and
Trump-
nice manners and all
And
that. Yeah.
he doesn't have any ideology. He's an idiot like
Right.
most people that don't have an ideology. So, like, he's wrong about a bunch of shit, but just the sheer nature of being radical enough to then make fun of John McCain. Like,
Right.
you know, he's a broken clock. He's going to be right.
Here's
every
why
once in a
he's
while.
so special, though, is I have always thought conservatives were funny, but they're less funny the more they dress up their speech. The things they believe are dumb, and I love talking about them. Donald Trump has mastered the presentation of the conservative id. He just says
Right.
everything they think
yeah.
without remembering he's part of a society. And it's just like,
Well, he did
this
that-
guy's in a wheelchair, he's talking to me, shut
yeah.
up!
Or when he said that women should be, I mean, this was kind of amazing when he said women should be punished for abortions. Because, again, that's really the logical outcome if you think it's
Yeah.
murder and you think it should be criminalized. He's just saying, and he doesn't even think that, but he's like, has this like,
He's the logical outcome
can't
of
stop
the end of a
talking.
lot of like Republican arguments.
well, yeah, but I mean, he's not I don't think Trump is anti-choice, but he was running as anti-choice, right? And I think he thought,
I mean, he might as
if
well be,
you're
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not
Oh, yeah,
pretending
yeah.
like, and he's he
Right.
is governing like that. I'm not cutting him any slack. I just think
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
closed doors, he doesn't give a shit about that stuff.
Look, he's a great
He's not
man.
homophobic. I don't think or he is, but he's not. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to praise him.
No, I know what
He's
you mean.
very
He
nice to the Lebanese.
He adopts. No, he's not. He's not a Christian right dude, but he governs like the Christian right, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But I do think that it was kind of amazing because if you think abortion's murder, and you think it should be a crime, then you should be punishing someone. So, of course, I disagree with the first two premises, so no one's getting punished. But no other Republican will say that because they know it's like unappealing because
Because it makes them sound like the monsters they
yeah,
are.
exactly. Yeah. Because most anti-choice people, I'll call you pro-life maybe if you're against the death penalty. If you're not against the death penalty, you're just anti-choice. But those people know it's not life, because if it were, they wouldn't have exceptions for rape and incest, because you don't get to kill someone because of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, not that I'm encouraging people to not have exceptions, but philosophically, it's not actually that consistent.
For sure. To get away from Trump, just because, come on, there's enough podcasts about Trump happening right now.
He's a monster. And he's Putin's boyfriend. They have gay sex
Oh,
together.
they have gay sex together. God, comedy's so dead.
Yeah, and
But
then
the
afterwards
joke
they
you're
open
supposed
up
to
a
tell.
bag of Cheetos.
Oh yeah, exactly. And they ride a unicorn.
Because they're
The
gay.
unicorn
Yeah.
that Bernie wanted to sell you,
Yeah.
which you couldn't.
It's not even real.
No,
except
give
when
you.
Trump
Didn't he?
has
He's
it.
both a snake oil salesman, but giving you ponies for free.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm
Are we talking
confused
ponies or
and
unicorns?
snarky.
Yeah.
But,
Do you remember when Hillary compared him to a character from There's Something About Mary? Because he
Oh,
said,
yeah.
okay.
I remember reading that
It's
reference. and it,
7-minute
made
abs
very-
that Bernie offering
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, sorry.
Mr. Bernie is a lot like when you come in your own hair.
Yeah.
Mr. Bernie. Bum, 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 bum.
But yeah,
Take it back.
Ocasio's great and Ben Jealous is great.
Well,
Love Ben
the
Jealous.
reason I wanted to bring this back to Ben Jealous and Ocasio is because I listened to your interview with Ocasio, and something I thought was really interesting was that you asked her where, like you asked her, how did you come to this position? And a lot of times people expect you to be like, well, I'm a lifelong Democrat or whatever, or I'm a lifelong socialist or whatever, and like I have these and she gave a very honest answer, which is that like this is all post 2016 politics. I mean,
Yeah.
she's 28 years
Right.
old. There's no reason for her to tell
Yeah.
you. When I was 22,
Right.
I read this
And she
book
didn't
or
think of
whatever.
running. It was her brother who nominated her. Yeah.
Yeah, but she also posed a very reasonable explanation of why the political circumstances surrounding her at the time during 2016 led her to become a socialist, which is what we get accused all the time of, like, oh, you're doing this because it's like a trend or something.
Right.
But these are, if you look at your surroundings at any given point and actually do the reading and apply any of this thought to like your life, you probably are going to end up as socialist and like left.
Right. Or you were raised by secular Jewish communists on the Upper West Side and you went to a communist summer camp.
Is that your
one of the
story?
two, yeah.
Like,
That's
yeah,
kind of
we
interesting to
all
me
were.
because I was raised by fucking capitalists, and so like for me, like leftism is this big thing that I had to like come to. So
Oh no, yeah. My uncle, who before he died, he rejoined the CPU, Communist Party USA. He got like a lifetime achievement award with like Amiri Baraka's widow.
Wow.
All of my in fact, so I don't take any credit. I like admire people who come to this on their own. I was born and raised like I'm a Woody Allen.
red diaper baby.
I'm a red diaper baby's baby. Yeah, because
Yeah.
my mom was. My dad's. I got relatives in Spanish Civil War. Both sides. Both sides.
Sure.
Dad's
Wow.
uncle blacklisted. He was the head archivist at the UN in Geneva. Got blacklisted. I got my uncle's wife even got some Spanish Civil War
Was
rep
there
there.
bad
rep in
blood
there.
between the both sides part of the Spanish Civil War and your family? Were they like
Oh, both sides of my family.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
my
Yeah.
God.
For a second, I was like,
That-
Franco.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! And now
the
playing
Bronx
the Jew.
and Queens.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the one we're
Yeah,
talking
no,
about.
I mean the Franco supporting Jews. No, Ireland was the only country that sent. This is so nerdy. We can talk about this in another. We'll do this in the
brigades.
This will be the bonus. The Patreon people will really pay for this. Spanish Civil War history. The Abraham Lincoln brigades were the American ones. They're the international brigades. Ireland was the only country to send volunteers significantly for Franco's side.
yeah.
I think that's right.
Jesus
I'll make
Christ.
you.
John McCain actually wrote a
He did,
eulogy.
praising the
Yeah.
last living Abraham Lincoln
Yeah.
Brigade vet because, and they were called premature anti-fascists. Yeah, I mean, there was a
Premature
high black and Jewish percentage of volunteers. I got the joke.
We all looked at each other
I know.
and didn't make the joke.
You held.
I
you
love how the
held
word
it- you held
premature
off. You
could
held
be
it
in so many. It could be used in so many different connotations.
You delay the gratification of that. But yes, they black Americans and Jews kind of knew what was up because they were like, "Oh, this Hitler guy, I think he's onto something not good," and we are often the recipient of it. So they were like ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I talked about this on a show recently with Nando Villa, who's from Spain. Anyway,
So you were growing up like the 90s, 80s, that era? Like what?
Noughts, you mean? Aughts, what are they
Noughts,
called?
yeah.
The 2000s? I'm just kidding.
The
No,
aughts.
you want to ask me my age? Yes, I was born in the 80s.
Okay.
And
Hey, me too.
Yeah, I'm a couple years older than you.
But
And
I'm always curious about what the radical left was like at that period.
it was like
'cause
no
seemed
nukes.
like-
It was
yeah.
like, well, my uncle apparently, this is funny.
It was, I can't hug my children with nuclear arms.
Yeah,
That's so
exactly.
true.
I think I went to that rally when I was one. Actually, there's a really cute picture of me at a NARAL rally that my parents took me to. I'll show you. I posted on Father's Day. But
If you were a radical who had also lost both of your arms in a conflict, did they like put you out front? Were you a big messenger boy for the movement? Did you get special treatment?
I don't really get it. Like, what is the
You
political?
can't hug your children with nuclear
Oh.
arms.
Here, look at this.
Oh.
So we have this very dedicated fellow.
That's
he
not
has no
so
arms.
stupid and
I
funny.
think you didn't understand
I
the
would
joke.
love
The
to.
joke was about the concept of nuclear arms.
Yes,
Yeah, he was
correct.
just taking it really nerdy punny.
Oh,
Do you see me?
I hate you, Alex.
I just
Yeah,
I
oh my
would-
God.
You see me and my dad
It
who
could've
looks
been
like
a-
Einstein? So that's
Yeah.
me at like 5 at a NARAL pro-choice rally.
This explains so much about you.
Oh yeah. I'm like did you see Annie Hall when he meets the character and he's like you're like a strike-oriented fan, like up Central Park West, but I was Riverside Drive. Anyway, here's me and my pops. They know about this because they had me on. And
Hell
they,
yeah.
Yeah. Einstein. My dad is so funny.
I didn't do anything productive
Look at that,
until
my chubby cheek. Look at my cheeks.
last
So
year.
cute. You guys, you can't see this, but I have pigtails. They're very cute. And I'm
So-
staying with my dad. Okay.
Put it in
Let's
the
talk
link description.
Ocasio though, because
Yes.
I mean, I feel like we're experiencing sort of a wave of glee. Like there's every once in a while the left gets a win and it feels great, but the next day we're going to sort of get hit with bad takes and with criticisms of her. The maybe the most like the most accurate and most profound criticism is maybe that she's apparently not into BDS, which
So what is her stance on this? Because let's be precise. Because I feel like all this stuff gets. I mean, I have a different stance probably on BDS than some people do. But what did she say?
that's a good question. I don't know.
Is it that
exactly.
she doesn't believe in boycotts because marketry tricks are nothing but
I
distractions
don't
of
believe in the cultural. I don't think BDS should be outlawed. I don't think it's anti-Semitic. I'm kind of a Chomsky on this, although people hate him because of the Antifa stuff too. But I don't think that like academics, although some academics there support it. I think it's like I don't think that that Israeli academics are any more part of the Israeli state of which is a colonial state. But I don't think they're more part of the state than American professors are part of the, what would you call America? Like imperialist.
Hegemonic Western.
That's-
yeah.
Sure.
But to be fair, the response to that is, well, Katie, no one's calling for a boycott against America. And if they did, I don't know.
Well, I think I mean, I don't know if this is her stance, but I know the Finkelsteins of the world who are like super critical of Israel.
It's a cult.
Still,
BDS
yeah,
is a
yeah.
cult.
He's called
He's been
BDS
on my
a
show.
cult
He's on my-
because of they're committed to a one-state solution, which I'm kind of now agnostic on. Because for a while I was saying, well, it's got to be 2 states. That's the only way it's going to get done. But that's not looking like a thing. So I don't know what she said in particular. But
Well, I know that I just found something. Not that this is. I mean, the Jerusalem Post says that she's, pro-Palestinian, wins a activist for Palestinian cause, wins upset in New York City primary race.
She spoke out on she called the recent attacks a massacre, which
Yeah.
is scandalous for the mainstream
But-
America news,
right.
where it's been branded as a shipping misunderstanding. or something.
But what is? I am
20
curious what
dead.
this thing is. Is this?
I don't really care about this because I don't buy Sabra hummus and shit, and I'm like I will practice BDS to an extent, but I also don't think BDS is the way to solve the fucking conflict out there. Like it has to be a state solution.
Yeah.
We're really not going. There's not enough people or not enough power to really not buy enough Sabra hummus to fix
Doesn't
this
it feel
fucking
like
problem.
boycotts in this day and age are very flimsy?
I kind of feel like it's like similar to being a vegan, which is like
That's the exact
Oh,
thing I
that's
think.
yeah,
of.
Yeah.
well, they can be. I mean, they usually are, but so is voting, so is direct action, so is like everything.
They
like
usually
everything.
are what?
Flimsy. Everything feels flimsy, can be flimsy, but I think it's situational. Like if you have a if someone who wanted to boycott. I got into this with somebody who we were talking about Amazon, and they were saying like we gotta boycott Amazon, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it at first, but now it's like I would be open to that if the workers at Amazon were saying, "Hey, boycott Amazon." If it's just somebody on a whim,
If it's coordinated and planned.
Right. But,
that is the
which
big
BDS
difference.
is trying to do, but yeah, they're also doing it against a major colonial military
That's
power.
also the difference of BDS and veganism. Is veganism is not attached to a political entity, whereas BDS is an organization with stated goals.
Yeah. I'm very curious though about where. See, this is the left. Not to be cliched, but like they can be so annoying. Like who's this? Who's like already like Ocasio? She's bad on BDS.
I've never smiled.
I'm just anyway. That's
hate
neither.
wins.
And someone did bring up on Twitter that her platform changed. I can show you that, which I don't really want to. I don't know if I want to. I mean, I like her, and I.
What could we talk, Cynthia?
Cynthia, you want to talk Ben at all, or is this mostly New York?
No, we should get here. I'm gonna pause real quick.
Oh, and Emily, we should talk about pseudo-feminine.
And we're back. Let's get right into Juanita Broderick.
Yeah.
This is a harsh turn this podcast is taking, but you interviewed Juanita Broderick.
Yeah. I feel like I should have explained my feminism more, but for your listeners, I'm a lifelong feminist. I used to, I've always said that, like, Hillary Clinton faces sexism and misogyny. There's no doubt about it. She also wasn't the more feminist candidate. Sanders was. He's more unapologetically pro-choice, and in less direct ways, he's fight for 15.
I'm so glad you're saying that because no one believes me when I say it. Just like, man.
No, you're part of the problem.
No, which part? The unapologetically or how his policies are more feminist?
That part.
Yeah. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to get that if you are.
You have to be a brain scientist to get this.
Yeah. You don't even have to have a brain to get to get that, like. And I wasn't insulting you, obviously. I was insulting your haters.
Programs
to
that are
get
good
that,
for working people are good for women.
Absolutely.
Well, also minimum wage workers in particular. The majority of minimum wage workers are women and people of color. And so the idea that feminism just means saying women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights, which is a good idea. I see the world that way too. That's not enough. Like saying that at a UN conference is not feminism. It's like maybe the bare minimum. It's like the semifinals round or whatever. But like, it's actually being less of a hawk is also more of a feminist move because war disproportionately kills women and children and punishes, through rape, through other things. So in all these other ways, Sanders is more of a feminist. He also was ahead of the curve on LGBTQ stuff. Supported same-sex marriage way before her.
Yeah, that's one thing that I don't get why he didn't criticize her more for. It's like she
Because-
went on the floor of the Senate and said that marriage was between a man and a woman.
Those are the faults of Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Is that he didn't understand. He's 84 years old.
Is he really that old? No.
Didn't.
He's not 84, is he?
I think he's in his 80s.
He's
No,
like
I think,
70,
no, he's not yet. I think he
something,
would be maybe,
Right,
in,
maybe
if
that's
he
what
ran
it is.
for.
If he
makes it to 20.
That might be
25.
where I'm getting that age from, but when people talk about the things that he missed, it's like, yeah, because he's old as fuck,
So
and
old.
he's still farther to the left
Yeah.
than a high school kid that's listening to the fucking The Crass right now.
Well,
Like,
I
how the
think he's
fuck-
also stubbornly I'm not someone who thinks he's infallible, and in fact, I think he should have been more strategic about this. But I think he's like stubbornly principled. I think that's like something that's actually not good. What's good about him is that he says the same thing. You could play like a continual tape from 1970 to now, and he's making the same points, which is admirable. But
I
Usually
think-
works against most old people.
right, because he's so progressive.
I think his main problem is that he has an inability to explain the message of how what he's talking about with economic justice then translates to social justice, and the reason he doesn't
racial justice. Yeah.
in racial justice and all these identity politics things, right? And the reason he doesn't have that skill set is because that's a extremely like 2010 to now like concept. We all just learned that.
Also, I think that's true. I also think his directness in itself, like I don't think it's limited to that. He doesn't sugarcoat things. Now, I agree with you. He could do a better job. But it's also the media is, like, out there.
Looking for him to...
Like, so, what this famous thing where he talked about how we have to move beyond identity politics. He literally was saying that they are necessary but not sufficient. That was his hot take.
Yeah.
They are necessary but not sufficient. The media made it sound like he was saying we don't need them at all. Like they're not even necessary. And those are two very different things. I agree with you, but I also think that, like, no matter what he says, it's like he could, like when he said we need Hillary, when Hillary was like touring on bashing him and talking about what happened, he was like, we need Hillary's help. Like, he wouldn't bash her back, and he was basically in a nice way being like, come on, we need you to help defeat Trump. People were like, fuck you, Sanders. Like, you don't get to... I think I tweeted as a joke. I was like, this misogynist wagging his finger, telling her what to do. And, like, I think Jen Kirkman.
Yeah.
But she's like, it's crazy. But she was
Friend
like...
of the show.
Yeah, I think she told him to, like, fuck himself with a chainsaw or something.
She told him to,
Oh, God.
Which is very
Well,
sad.
She's a storyteller.
But,
we have a long-standing. I've talked about this before, but I have planned to contact Jen Kirkman and tell her that I'm in the Brocialist podcast world, and that there's a lot of Putin infiltration going on, and if she could help me spread the word,
called. Well, but the thing that drives me crazy, by the way, about the sexism Bernie Hillary stuff, is that I will get into. I know it's just Twitter, but Twitter is still a window into where people's souls would be if they had them. But I will get into fights with people on Twitter, and they'll say that Bernie is bad on women's issues, and I'll ask them why, what policy, and they will say his finger wagging and his dismissing Planned Parenthood as establishment organizations. And I'm like, okay, so it's not policy. Let's just be honest about it. And I pretend that I'm okay with it just being those two things. I'm not. I think that's bullshit. But for argument's sake and to be diplomatic, I'll be like, okay, I get it. It doesn't have to be about policy. But let's just be precise. So it's not the policy, it's discourse. And I'm like, discourse is politics, sure. They'll maybe admit it, they usually don't. But I've never been able to pin someone down to tell me what it is about him that makes him bad on women's issues, except for calling Planned Parenthood and Human Rights Watch establishment organizations, which they are. But that's an example. That was stupid. That was an unforced error. He should have... Show?
But also, the thing about Planned Parenthood is that during the 2016 primary, Planned Parenthood decided that they wanted to get on board with the fight for 15 because that was the thing that was happening at the time. And then someone, very wisely within Planned Parenthood, had to point out, if you want to promote the fight for 15, you have to pay your own employees $15 an hour. And they did it eventually, but they, like, kowtowed to it. Like, they wanted to cash in on that thing.
Which was, you know who that
do
was? You're welcome. That was Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what
sorry, Planned Parenthood, but you get that's a feminist issue and you should, and that's good. You got to work on putting your values into practice. But, like,
that's exactly why you should be calling fucking, Planned Parenthood and places like that, the establishment. You should be calling them out on it. And that's why it's good and not
But what happened is we know this from and if you say we know this from WikiLeaks, then you're a Putin agent and you are, filleting Julian Assange on the regular. But, we know from WikiLeaks that the Clinton campaign jumped all over that and pushed that hashtag I'm so establishment, something with establishment.
Oh yeah, they were embracing
that
it
they
for
pretended
was
My abuela is
organic,
en el
but it
casa.
What is it? I'm so establishment or so
My abuela
establishment?
uses hot sauce on her paychecks
When
where she
she's-
doesn't pay you
when she's,
$15 an hour.
Hanging out with Mary J. Blige.
My abuela
that
goes to
that
the
made
bag.
Me, that was so painful.
Parenthood, 90% of what they do is
Top 90%
on caviar.
Actually, no, he should say only 3% go into abortion, 97% goes into everything else. Which is why you should be funding them, even if you are a reactionary.
The top 10% of the baby is only actually alive.
Right, what did they
The minimum a king can ask is to split a baby down 50%.
They are not aborting boss babies. Every working class babies are getting aborted.
You guys have seen James Adomian's impersonation of him, right?
Yeah,
His
of course.
thing
I
where
love
he goes for a bank
Adomian.
loan is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I'm a little late for the Sandinistas. Maybe I could, if there were any other revolutionary Central American organization, maybe I could loan him a few bucks. So funny.
Yeah.
He's so brilliant, James.
Oh man, he's the funniest.
He's
fucking
very happy
person
about
ever.
Ocasio.
I bet.
Oh.
Yeah, he's also I fucking love James
Me too.
Adomian. I met him a long time ago doing stand-up, and I was pleased to discover that we both believed in a lot of the same.
Oh yeah, he's a
lines
total
of
Bernie bro.
politics or
He's a
whatever.
gay Bernie bro.
Yeah, we're now both out here fighting this shit on the fucking
Yeah.
not the front lines.
He
but,
gets
you
a
know.
lot of that too. You know, he's always because a lot of people don't know he's gay, and
Yeah.
they just call him a
He's gay the way I'm Mexican.
through genes, through the genes.
His
genetic-
word.
Yeah, genetically and in every way that
Yeah,
it can be
I know,
used
yeah.
against you, but not surface level.
Not what?
Not maybe not surface level. I struggle with this because race for me is a complicated thing because sometimes the reason that you are the most outspoken about it is because you have lived a life where it's you've like had it used against you in really specific ways or whatever. And for me, the thing I always tell people about my race is that they ask you, like, are you white or are you Mexican? I always tell them it depends on who's yelling at me. That's how this plays
funny.
out or whatever. But I also think that that's probably true for a person like Ben Jealous because he is
Good segue.
technically going to be the first black official in the seat that
Yeah.
he's
He's great. Well, I thought I maybe because I always knew him in the context of the NAACP, but my friend saw him on the Jumbotron at the DNC and was like, would you look at that? The NAACP has a white president. I never for a second, though, and she like grew up with me here. She's from the Bronx. I'm not sure why she thought that, but
well, race is a construct, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
well, it's
there
a
are other
construct,
people-
but it's also like the world sees. Of course, it's a construct, right? But the world still sees people as like the question is whether when Ben Jealous walks down the street, like does the world see him as black? They may see him as like ethnically ambiguous. It is weird how it is it's both a construct and real, right? Like
Yeah.
a person like Trayvon Martin, not to be you know like, but it doesn't really matter how he identified or identifies, like
Right.
unless you're obviously none of you guys here. I don't think I need to convince any of you guys here that was a race issue. But that is a really weird thing. It's like the way that race is both constructed and yes, given within that construction, it's become super real, so real that like we know that
Yeah, I mean it's the problem is race is a very broad concept.
Right.
So like at any given time we're minimalizing it to to mean one thing or the other. But it is both someone like Ben Jealous's background and also the way he's perceived. So he's like I think I like him a lot because I'm like this guy probably understands that sometimes you're white and sometimes you're not, depending on whether it's someone's eyeballs on you or the background of your family or whatever.
Well, and it's something I really like about what Assad Haider has been saying, and he said this in your interview with him, was that identity politics used to be about disrupting identity. So rather than just doubling down on this fixed, like pretending like it's this fixed category that we can't escape, we just try to transcend it in some way. Then this is obviously a different level of social pressure or whatever. But I feel the same way. It's like on paper I have autism, but I don't need people to tell me I'm autistic. I don't need people to not tell me I'm autistic. It's like I accept that it's a made up thing,
I could have told you're autistic.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking.
what means what
Happy
I
birthday.
didn't know that you were autistic. Whether that I don't know what that I mean. I'm not saying that in a valid. That's funny, not funny or funny. I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That's a-
Audiences
that's
are
beyond Asperger's. Like that's more intense than Asperger's.
Well, it's the whole Asperger's.
It's
is
on the spectrum, right?
Asperger's is
every-
a spectrum.
So, but
Everybody's
isn't,
on the spectrum. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I went to Wesleyan.
Yeah.
Just kidding. That was a sexuality joke, not
But
But it's the same.
Anders can't
Concept.
have Asperger's because he's not a math guy.
True.
and you make eye contact.
I did because to compensate for being told that I'm bad with
really?
social cues. I don't know. I guess.
Well, were you told? Do you remember that?
Look at
being
his
told
eyes.
that?
I mean, I've
Look at
trained
him.
myself to
Right.
be really
You passed.
aware
You
of.
see, we're talking about- this
I'm
is-
non-spectrum
you passed.
passing. Yeah.
you didn't pass with me. I always thought it was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew he was
Some
a fucking
people are
robot.
onto it.
That's why I like you. Tell me about interviewing Ben Jealous, though.
That was
Yeah,
great.
we
That was
got-
fun. Co-host and I, Gabe Pacheco, we were talking to him, and we talked all about like how you keep someone progressive, and we talked about New York, and we talked about racial identity, actually, because I sometimes read as Latina, Gabe reads as Jewish, Ben can read as many things.
Can I tell you something? You read as Latina to me only through your voice, but because you hit a timbre that is so similar to like members of my family and
That's
shit.
so funny.
It's fucking great. I love it.
Yeah, great. Someone on a Reddit thingy was like, she sounds like... It was like a big debate over whether my voice was repulsive or attractive, and someone was like, "It's gross, like my Jewish aunt," and someone
What
else was like,
subreddit was this?
I don't know.
It was the third level Patreon tier to Cumtown.
Yeah, it was on the Cumtown Discord.
But
anyway.
Oh, sorry. So we're talking about being progressive, and JLS has this great story about how, the apocryphal perhaps story about FDR and A. Philip Randolph, and how FDR says to Randolph, "Oh, all these things you're asking me for, it's great. Now go out and make me do it." And he says that you don't turn to a politician to make change. You turn to a politician. So you should never expect a politician to make change. You want the politician. You don't vote for a politician to make change. You vote for the politician who will make it easier for you to make change. You do the work. Now, of course, now he ran for office, but you do the work, and the issue is like the person's easier to dance with. Anyway, it's great. He's a great speaker. And then, as we're wrapping up, I joke, and we talked all about how you can keep progressive, try to make Hillary more progressive. As we're wrapping up, I joke, we should tape two endings to this in case Hillary wins, in case Trump wins. And he's like, we all laugh. And he's like, as of now, fear the possibility that Trump wins. And we were like, oh, okay. And then he was like, we think about unlikely voters as the black and Latino voters who are, related to the Voting Rights Act, but really they're white, low income, less educated voters. He goes through this whole thing. He talks about how they're cicada voters who only come out every 20
cicada.
Yeah,
voters.
because if you don't vote, if you miss one cycle,
They come in a swarm.
you don't get polled.
And they just vote like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They only vote
Not
in
very
June.
effective voters. Not very informed. Anyway, he basically called it and said that the things that get these unlikely voters out, these cicada voters, are two causes: extremism and celebrity. And Trump is both of them.
Yeah. Wow, and he fucking nailed it, apparently.
Yeah. And Jealous is great because he really sees the racial and class. To him it's absurd to just this whole fake notion of not pursuing multiracial coalitions. I mean, I don't know if it's a fake notion.
Dude, I'm telling you, people that are racially ambiguous understand race
That's
on a level that's
that's really interesting because
they have to grapple with
Yeah.
it all day, every day
But
in
also,
their fucking lives.
also people who do that's true. Also, people who do organizing or study history get that too. It's only people who don't know. Okay, there's some people who really have very distinct politics where they don't believe in coalitions and cooperation, but most people, I just don't think, understand the history, and they have this very dangerous view that because people respond to racism, ergo they cannot respond to class consciousness. Because people have a racial identity and their white supremacy is real, we can't do anything about that. I'm not minimizing white supremacy, but the answer to white supremacy, and you're not going to win everyone over, and you're not going to dismantle it overnight, but the only way you compete with white supremacy, demographically speaking, I mean, maybe we can have some kind of, send people to a planet at some point, but is you appeal to, and there's nothing racist about this, you appeal to people's common interests. People work together in coalitions, and it's not even a teachable moment thing. They just become aware. I mean, you have to do some whatever. Anyway, I'm probably saying the obvious.
That's really interesting because Julian Bond was also an NAACP leader who was light-skinned and saw class as an inextricable thing with race.
That,
a little fact.
That may have had to have something to do also with how colorism and how easy it was to be successful when you looked like the blacker you looked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Was Jealous's race close?
For the primary?
You mean his
his
physical race?
The primary.
Well, what's so cool is he's
That happened
running against a
yesterday.
guy named Hogan. He's running for governor of Maryland. He's running against a guy named Hogan. He was a surrogate of Bernie's, by the way, Ben Jealous. And I think he should make all these gifts that are like Hulk Hogan and The Rock. but The Rock is a Republican. But
Right.
for that, it would work.
Yeah.
But then The Rock has never said the N-word on tape, and Hulk Hogan has. There's the race.
That was good.
Game
You're good.
over.
The Rock is also not he's like one of those guys he's a celebrity, so he's not
Right.
really a Republican. Like he doesn't really believe in that shit. He's just an idiot.
Attacks
and
once
it
later.
Well,
makes
he's
sense in
also he's such big money at this point that you become like a formless
Right.
wave
Yeah.
that just
Oh,
turns into things
speak-
to make more money.
Speaking of Republicans, can we just quickly circle back to Joy Reid saying that she didn't know basically about Ocasio? My other favorite response to Ocasio was from Steve Schmidt, who was he should be fired from MSNBC just for saying this, but he should never have been there in the first place. He was an advisor to McCain. It was his brilliant idea to.
But he thinks
to
it's
have-
okay for gay people to
have-
get married. He's reasonable.
Yeah, he won't stop saying "gook." By the way, "gook." Sorry,
Gook.
Gook.
Yeah.
He
Or
won't
not
stop saying
that
gook.
word.
You know that.
G-O-O-K.
Like he
yeah.
says he
I'll
won't.
say it.
No, he says no. This is the best thing about it.
Wait. John
He
McCain or
says-
Steve Schmidt?
No, McCain
Okay.
says that he doesn't use it for anyone else except for the people who tortured him. Which is like if I said I only use the N-word for the people who did something bad for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not
Right. You shouldn't need that.
Yeah, and it was his brilliant idea, Steve Schmidt, who talks like this. I don't know where he's from. It was his idea for McCain to run with Sarah Palin. That worked out well. So this guy, then he thinks he's like a Nobel Peace winner because he decides, like after decades of being a Republican, meaning supporting McCain, meaning supporting Reagan, the Contras, like tons of like Central American families ripped apart, literally blown up, kids killed, all this stuff. Like then he gets
Family
teary-eyed.
values candidate.
Well, then he gets teary-eyed about Trump separating families and decides like 5 days ago he has to not be a Republican anymore. This guy says about Ocasio on MSNBC, where he's a correspondent or a commentator, he says that she's like there's dishonest progressivism and dishonest right-wingism, and she's just like a left Trump. Like the idea that Ocasio is like
She's a
left Trump. It's like that is so dumb when people say that about Corbyn and Sanders. That's already dumb. But saying it about Ocasio
Yeah, but
is
somebody who was a
like-
bartender a year ago.
and like
I don't think she should have
woman
run
and-
on grab him by the dick.
Yeah, that was. I'm really happy.
She should
won
have.
despite
That's
that.
awesome.
Did you see? I actually asked her. I asked her the most gotcha question when I interviewed her. I said to her, and it's true. I've seen you criticize Andrew Cuomo, but do you think that that's sexist and racist to do, considering he identifies as a black woman? She responded very well to that. But did you see this video of him? He's like,
that video of him is so funny. Where he's
I'm-
like, I'm gay. I'm
as
black.
a New Yorker,
I'm a woman.
I'm a Jew.
He's like that
I'm a
Mulaney joke.
woman.
I'm new in town.
I'm a woman.
As a New Yorker.
I'm a Muslim. I'm a Jew.
I have HIV.
I'm a bitch. I'm a lover.
It's actually really good. Do a
He's
cover
a
of that.
powerful white man, and he's trying to make some statement by coming out and saying,
As a New Yorker,
Did
my
you
magic is
see-
old. I am Legion.
Did you see also, this was the best, Zephyr Teachout, who was running for governor against him and came a lot. She's another person who's running for attorney general.
Yeah.
yeah.
She's great. We should all get out to vote for her. She is running.
Fly away, my Zephyr.
She came up really pretty close to beating.
I'm a Scorpio. We're not very well understood in the Aquarius community.
What's that from?
I don't know.
Oh.
Zodiac.
But Zephyr Teachout ran against Cuomo, and she did much better considering the entire political establishment backed him. She did much better than anyone thought she would, and she's awesome. I love Zephyr Teachout, and she's on the show. There's really funny footage of her trying to say hello to Cuomo at some I don't remember
Oh,
a
yeah,
rally.
the parade thing.
And
Yeah.
he's like trying so hard to ignore her, and so he sees De Blasio, and he's like, so Zephyr's like, Governor Cuomo, and then he's like trying to ignore it, and De Blasio is there, and he's like, Mr. Mayor. It's just like the most awkward segue. He's just trying to get out of
Right.
talking to her
The second.
because she's trying to reach him,
Yeah.
to talk to him. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I think we should round the
Yeah,
show out by
sure.
talking about Cynthia Nixon, because what is happening with Cynthia Nixon right now is extremely important and is going to be most informative to people outside of New York who may be listening to this show. She's sort of running a protest campaign against Cuomo,
right.
and I kind of, I'm like knocking on wood, and I don't really want to say this out loud, but I don't think she's going to win. I think
Don't knock on wood for
important
that. That's not how knock.
Yeah.
Well, I think what she's doing is important in the sense of the race itself, right?
But you don't want to. I'm with Andrew
Right.
because you don't want to knock on wood. She wins, but you don't think she's going to win. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I've never understood the whole expression, to be honest. I get it
If
wrong
you
every
say
time.
if you don't want to jinx yourself,
Right.
you knock on wood.
Right. I think I knocked.
It's
on
usually
wood.
when someone dies.
But no, but like the way you're saying it makes it seem like you want her to lose. You don't want her to lose, but you're saying
I don't
you
want her to
think
lose.
she will.
I'm just gonna knock on this table
Yeah.
the entire
You're
time.
like,
Yeah, we
there's
gotta
no
cancel 'em out,
relationship
and then-
between
yeah.
my knocking on wood. I'm just doing that.
I think yeah, you're right. I might have said that backwards. But what's going on with if anyone's listening from outside of New York and you're not
Welcome.
aware
This is a safe
of
space.
what's happening here, you're listening to me and my podcast pals.
We're walking
and
here. We're recording this.
We're
track
all walking
while
here.
we're walking across the
Each
street.
of us in a different borough.
I'm hailing a cab. Eating a pizza folded in half.
And there's this race for governor happening, right? And so Cynthia Nixon, who played Miranda on Sex and the City, is running against our incumbent governor, Andrew Cuomo. And Andrew Cuomo fucking
Parentheses Samantha.
sucks. He's a
He's
Democrat, so
Bare
people
in name
assume he's
only,
fine.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, but he's essentially like a terrible
And
politician.
there's all these. There's something called the IDC, which is the independent. I don't even remember what it stands for. It's
Independent Democratic Caucus.
And they basically are Republican. I mean, they're just Republicans, and they're awful. And he's like tight with them, and he's very corrupt. And
He
awful.
formed it as an excuse to not actually because he got the every couple of years, like in 2009 or in New York, like the Democrats are
Have
put in the
big fans.
shitty position from their perspective of actually being
able
in
to do
power.
good shit.
Yeah, and they have to come up with frantically find some excuse to not actually do anything that their constituents want.
Yeah.
So what they do is vote with the Republicans.
Yeah.
If you follow lizard people theory that lizard people dress up as our politicians to blockade us from making any human progress, it's the same story, but with Republicans who are just spiritually lizard people.
Yeah. So Cynthia Nixon has sort of been like leading this very, very powerful, like very like historical campaign against Cuomo, and yeah, we'll see what happens. A lot of people think like there's no reason for her to like do this. A lot of people on the left think it's great, but it's a protest campaign. It's
Well,
not.
but it's not like at the very least, I can't remember what was the issue she already pushed him left on. Someone
Marijuana?
tweeted.
Yeah.
Someone tweeted something funny like the best thing Cynthia Nixon ever did as governor was like make Cuomo. I don't know. It was a funny thing. It was a funny.
The best thing about her is that like she's been coming out and running on a platform of abolishing ICE and
Yeah.
legalizing marijuana and decriminalizing sex work and all this shit. And she might not win, but what's already happened is
it's
caused the
changing
fucking
the
guy running for for like re-incumbent
Shifts the
office
Overton
to
window.
have to go. Oh, now I'm also. I
Right.
think we should be
Right.
legal or whatever, and that's politics in practice.
Yeah, and if she does well, even if she doesn't
Yeah.
beat him, like this guy ain't gonna be working in a Democratic White House. You know,
He's
he's not
also-
gonna be running for president. He's not
which is
gonna.
what he's wanted to do.
Yeah. And maybe he's
But
gonna
we
be
also
bugged.
don't know. I mean, we would have said that Ocasio never could have won,
Right.
right?
And what did Teach out? She
Sure,
hit
yeah.
like 30%, something like
Yeah.
that, and that was with no name recognition.
Yeah, none whatsoever, and she's great. Yeah.
People don't recognize her name as a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually name recognition refusal.
Yeah.
Well, her name is
It's a protest vote against the name.
Her name is Nixon, so that's already not good.
Well,
Right.
She says she's a better Nixon, but
Genuinely confusing.
Yeah.
Her mother, I saw this on her
She's
Colbert
a New
interview.
Yorker like
Her
me.
mother was married to an Adolf in the 40s and lived through the 70s as a Nixon. She likes to say. That's a little tagline. Clever.
Damn.
Cute.
Oh. Her wife is a big labor person.
Oh, right.
That
she's
means
a
she
lesbian.
gave birth to the babies?
Huh? That's funny. I'm not sure.
Where do they get the cake made?
Good question.
There was so much happening in that one moment.
It was very pregnant.
That would be a great threefer if we get Ocasio, Nixon and Julia Salazar. And after
Julia Salazar,
yesterday, this
friend of
all
the
seems
show.
doable. Because New York politics, like, this could be a watershed moment for, like, we could actually have a state as progressive as the
And
people in it.
and let's Zephyr Teachout. She's running for AG.
Yeah, is that looking good?
I think it's Tish. She's running against Tish James.
Oh, Letitia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think we are kind of experiencing a watershed. I think 2018 is going to be kind of a watershed. And the question is whether it's going to be a watershed for liberals or fucking leftists. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes.
You can buy our book, Good Shed, Bad Shed, a homeowner's guide to lawn repair.
Julia Salazar is also a great candidate who you can support if you live in New York and if you're in her district, which she's running for a state Senate seat.
Bushwick, Ridgewood, Williamsburg.
Yeah, which if you listen to podcasts, you're probably in Bushwick.
Yeah.
So, just show up and vote for this person. But, like, I don't know. I guess to wrap this whole thing up, to, like, kind of put a pin on this, like, what do we think about the concept of electoral politics? Because
You're like, in our remaining 30 seconds, let's deliver our treaty.
Is this all bullshit?
Yeah.
Go.
that's honestly my question. Because,
Yeah.
as, like, a lot of anarchists, like the concept of anarchism will kind of tell you, like, well, this is bullshit. Like, you were sold the ballot box. It's a false bill of goods. It's there to sort of distract you from getting any work done or whatever. And I don't quite like disagree with it, but I also think like it's more complicated. I think like the ballot is a tool in the middle of a bunch of other shit that gets stuff done or whatever.
Yeah, power building is important.
I'm just so pleased with the cause, yo. I'm just like so happy right now.
Well, see, I remember on Monday I was phone banking for her, and there was someone else, another volunteer, who was on a call and was doing a really good job because there was someone she was talking to who was like, okay, she's making all these great promises, but what's she gonna do when she gets in there? How do I know she's actually gonna do it? She can't do all this stuff on her own, and the volunteer had to be like, well, yeah, that's true. She can't do it all on her own. There has to be like a grassroots movement and people holding her accountable.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
Imagine if every fucking congressman also wanted to do what
But
Yeah.
it
she's
also
doing.
does, it shifts
we
the.
get done.
Right. But my response to the anarchists is like, the shit you're doing isn't any less reformist than voting, because we don't decide to live in under capitalism, and so everything you do is going to exist under capitalism. If you break a window, that's still working within the system. It's still part of the system. If you vote, then sometimes that can be more threatening to the system than smashing. It depends on the situation.
Well, the
Yeah.
frustrating thing about anarchists is, like, in the streets protesting it has its own efficacy, but then a lot of the people who complain about electoral politics are like, and that's why I have my own form of protest, which is my band, Rat Fuck! All of the instruments are rats! It's not politics,
terrible.
it's not helpful.
Please go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. Anyway, yeah, I'm having a live taping at Caveat, which is at 21 Clinton Street, Saturday, June 30th at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6:30. Get your tickets online, because if you can, or not, get them at the door. The guest is Thomas Frank, who's a great writer. He's very funny. He wrote What's the Matter, Kansas? Listen Liberal. Big critic of neoliberalism. He's from Kansas, and he's very. He was great. He's just a big. He was like predicting Trump would win. People were calling him crazy.
If you're in New York, you should come watch that.
Yeah.
I listened to the book, Listen Liberal. I didn't read it. I listened to it on audio tape. And
Does that make you a liberal now?
yeah. Apparently, because he told me to listen liberal.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the book quite a bit because it's a very angrily written book.
Yeah.
And the entire book, I can't remember if it was him that read it, but it might have been somebody else who read it for him. But the tone of the book itself was they yell the book at you. It's like it's a
Listen!
it's an angrily written book, and it's very good for that reason.
Yeah.
So like, I cannot wait to come out
Awesome.
on the 30th and
Yeah.
and listen to him talk about it, because he did a great job.
Yeah. Great.
He's got a passion.
big
It's
endorsement.
attractive.
And you can follow me on Twitter at KTHalps, letter K, letter C, HALPS. And listen to my show on WBAI on Wednesdays at 7 p.m.,
Good show.
99.5
Yep.
FM, or on just iTunes and SoundCloud and Patreon.
Cool. Yeah, if you're in New York and if you're online, listen to the Katie Halper Show on iTunes and all
Even
that
if you're
stuff.
not in New York.
Also, if you're just on Twitter, listen, follow at KT Helps and listen to the show that she does with friend of the show, Gabe Pacheco. Thank you very much, Katie Halper, for coming on the
Thank you.
show
Thanks for having me.
and proving that we're not sexist.
Yeah. Give you a feminist badge of seal of approval.
We did it, fam.
Now we're a feminist comedy show.
Yeah.
We did it, fem.
But please follow Katie and listen to her show and follow all the journalistic endeavors that she puts forth. You guys, anything to plug before we get out of here?
I'd like to plug Anders' birthday.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's tomorrow at Dromedary. I think you could still make it by the time this comes out. Also, I'm on Twitter at Patak Jokes. You can come to my weekly stand-up show on Sundays at 7 in the Village, Ave A and 5th. Sing Karaoke Bar in the basement. Come down. We're doing
I
the
didn't know you did
fucking
that.
news, bitches.
Really?
It's called Bad News. It's a comedy show. Come check it out.
My birthday is on the 28th, so if we're doing karaoke, you're free to come and do karaoke. I can't stop you.
Where?
Dromedary.
That's your right
in
as a
Bushwick.
citizen.
Cool. All
Yes.
right. Actually, you don't.
9:30.
Maybe you don't want to say that because you don't want to get weirdos coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. It
We're
would be.
new enough
I would
in
be
the
honored.
game
Yeah.
where
If that happened, that would
let's
be.
meet some weirdos.
Right. Other than that, follow me at Anders Lee here on Twitter. And we just got some UK listeners from last week. If you are one of those and you are in London,
Whoa.
come see me at Draper Hall on July 12th. I will be doing a preview of my one-man show, solo show, Dummy, which is about the autism issue I was discussing earlier.
Dummy's great. I saw it. I watched it. I literally cried. I'm not joking.
Oh,
What
shit.
part did you cry during?
Well, I hadn't eaten.
Was it the jacking
3
off with no
days.
hands portion?
Nah, man. My brother's autistic. It really got me.
Oh, thank you.
That's beautiful. That's a
Also,
good show.
I'm probably autistic.
Everyone is, as you will learn if you come to see that on
Come to
July
the
12th.
show.
I'm doing a
It's the day after
double
my birthday.
feature with Simon Kane out there in the UK, so check it out.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, listen. I have shit. I'll put on my posted. I'll put on my pinned tweets. My stand-up
sorry.
dates. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, look for my interview with Acasio, Zephyr Teachout, Ben Jealous, and I did interview Juanita Broderick, who we can talk about next time I'm on the show.
Yeah.
But
Who's running
keep
for
it-
mayor?
Keep an ear out for and an eye out. I'll probably write something about her again. I interviewed her for New York Magazine, and I've written some identity politics stuff for Paste in case anyone wants to follow up on what I've been saying. That's a awkward
Yeah.
way to-
Well, listen to the
yeah.
Katie Halper show
Yeah.
in general.
In
It's a
gen,
great
yeah.
show, and
Thanks.
it's very informative.